That's the reactive state for Angular. Now, those who are already familiar with Angular, Angular is a Google-powered web development framework which can run across multiple platforms. Now, this platform is available for TypeScript developers. Okay, so those who know TypeScript can easily work in Angular. Now for this course, we will be using Angular version 16, but to be very precise, the latest version is Angular 17, which was released by Google a couple of months later. Now this can vary when you're watching this video, but at the time of this recording, Angular 17 was released in November. This course contains the 16th version, and because that's stable and the community support is great, so I will be continuing to explore NGRX, that's the reactive state library for Angular for managing state management solutions, will be provided in this. Now with the Angular, already if you know RxJS is super cool. So if we can go and search for RxJS, so RxJS is the reactive state library for JavaScript. Now Angular heavily rely on RxJS for state management solutions. But most of the time it becomes really difficult for us to manage state when you are working in a big corporate or product application. So at that time, NGRX can really be handy for you to work for state management solutions in your Angular application. Now, RxJS rely very deeply on a concept known as Redux. Now, the Redux concept is really great and is available for wider scope of frameworks like React, Angular, NGRX, Vue, and many more libraries and frameworks. Now, NGRX, that's the reactive state for Angular, helps you to manage the state as its NGRX store provides reactive state management for Angular apps inspired by Redux. As I told you, unify the events in your application and derive state by using RxJS, as I already told you that it totally relies on RxJS. Now isolate side effects. NGRX effects gives you a framework for isolating side effects from your components by connecting observables of actions to your store. So that's really beneficial. Unlock productivity. NGRX semantics helps you to avoid writing common boilerplate and instead focus on building your application. So supported by the community and our sponsors NX, start building reactive state application by today. So for this, we will study this thing in great advance, okay, and we will be seeing NGRX with Angular, how it works, how it behaves, how it gets installed, and how you need to set up your application in order so that your NGRX can be incorporated into your entire Angular application. Now we can click on Get Started over here, and in this you see bunch of things. Now NGRX relies on few of the things like the state. State has different solutions, okay. It also has a data, which is the NGRX data, okay. And if you go for the overview, NGRX data is an extension that offers a gentle introduction to NGRX by simplifying management of entity data while reducing the amount of explicits. So right now we are not concentrating on the data, but for this course of action, we will be checking out the state, this one. Now in the state, we have the store, we have the effects, we have the router, the entity, component source, signals, and operators. Course focus would really rely on the store and on the effects. Now, these signals component store entities are much more advanced versions, and for this we will totally rely on store and effects, as these are one of the core key concepts which you will find during your uh, corporate level or your professional levelism. Either you are building a project for your own, or you are working for a company, or you are working on a contract. All of these things will really help you. Now, it also brings you some developer tools. Now, developer tools are like store dev tool, where if we see for this, store dev tool provide developer tools and instrumentation for your store. So there are a few steps how we can set up the store, but more on that will become later in the course. We will see the installation and much more things, right? But if we see the introduction, we can just start with, if I can zoom in a bit, we can start with what is NGRX. So NGRX is a framework for building reactive applications in Angular. NGRX provides libraries for managing global and local state, isolation of side effects to promote a cleaner component architecture, entity collection management, integration with the Angular router, developer tooling that enhances developer experience when building many different types of applications. So what are packages could be there in NGRX? So NGRX packages are divided into a few main categories. If we see, the categories are the state, the data, view, and developer tools. In the state, we have the store. Store is nothing but a main area where your entire data collection takes place. So store NGRX powered global state management for Angular apps inspired by Redux. Effects, side effects model for NGRX store. Router store, binding to connect the Angular store to NGRX store. Entity, entity state adapter for managing record collection. Component store, standalone library for managing local component state. Signals, reactive store, and set of utilities for Angular signals. Now we are not utilizing the power and the new feature of Angular. So Angular signals, we won't be diving into this. Standalone library for managing local state of component. We won't be diving into this. Shared RxJS operator for NGRX library. Yeah, we can look at the operators. We can look at the side effects, because side effects are nothing but whatever asynchronous task we would be doing, so that we can support pure functions concept. More on this will be coming in the later part of this video, of this course, sorry. And the store is the main thing where we will be diving into this. So store, if we grab a direct thing, we should look at this diagram. So within this diagram, you can see that NGRX state management lifecycle is somewhat like this. Now, here you can see bunch of things: the selector, the component, the store, the reducer, the action, the effects, and the services. But let me simplify you this concept. It's not that difficult, but most of the things starts with your component, this one. Now let's say you are having a home component, okay, and the home component have a refresh button, and that refresh button will help you to simply refresh all the dashboard items, widgets which are available to your home screen. Now on your component, you probably have some actions like refresh, actions like logout, login, search. Those are your actions, okay? So these actions simply go to your reducer. Reducer is nothing but a feature which will help you to manipulate your state. Okay, it will help you to manipulate your state without damaging all the data. It just reduces is it just modifies the data. Okay, it stores the entire state of your application, but only modifies a part of the state in order to update each and everything on your UI. More on this will be helpful when we see the practical of this. Now this reducer goes to the store, okay, and the store helps you to select a particular part of that thing. Let's say you go to a mall but you only want to buy some chips, so you will go to the grocery section and from there you will pick the chips. You won't go into the wardrobe section, or you won't go into the gaming section. You will just go to the grocery part and then you will grab that thing. So selector deals with some sort of a selection thing, okay, from the entire store, and then that selector again incorporates your component, and then this cycle goes on. But whenever you want to make some asynchronous requests, that means you want to step out of your comfort zone and take some API calls, or grab the data from the API, or so do some modifications of CRUD based system via asynchronous calls. At that time, your action totally rely on the effects. These are known as side effects, okay? These effects then deal with the service, Angular services, and those Angular services then communicate with the databases and vice versa. So this is how your NGRX cycle works. So there are much and much more things how we are going to deal with all of those things. Okay, so it's going to be an amazing journey. We are going to see lots and lots of things in NGRX. This entire course won't be so long as we have the Angular entire course, but yeah, whatever we'll learn are totally based on the practicals, what you get in your real life when you're working with some product which utilizes the power of Angular with NGRX. So this was pretty much it regarding this intro video. Thanks for watching, and I will now see you in the next one.
Hi there and welcome back. So, I am Siddhartha Verma and going to be the host for this entire course. So, we all do love lots and lots of technologies, whether it's in front end or back end. We handle it both and we teach it in the most easiest way possible. Now, already what we have learned so far was the introduction and how we should and use NGRX, the Redux pattern for Angular state management. Now, Angular state management is one of the crucial role which has to be played by the developer in the Angular lifecycle, in the Angular's development lifecycle, I should say. Now, with this, it's important for us to know why and how we are going to apply this into our development. And as we know that NGRX, the reactive state for Angular, is a separate package, we should always and always make sure that we have Angular on our system. This one, the Angular. Now, to get a real idea of what all things we are expecting in the Angular world, we can go to the docs directly where we have the understanding the components, and in the components, the first one would be the component lifecycle. Now, in the component lifecycle, one should always know the ng on init, ng after view init, and the ng on destroy. These three are the really most important lifecycle hooks one should understand while dealing with Angular. Now, if we don't know about these topics, I recommend you to check out the Angular course, but then as well, you should know these three main hooks in order to start. And with this, we will also be looking at the component interactions, how component interacts and how you deal with it. The parent and child relationship would also be there. The content projection would be there. Dynamic components. Then templates would be there. The pipes. Okay, the pipes would be there. Basically, we will be using the async pipe over here. The bindings should also be really clear. The two-way binding, the event binding, and the attributes binding. So all of these things should be pretty much clear when you deal with Angular for this course. Now, if we see for more things, we have the dependency injection, and this is going to play a really crucial and the vital role in the Angular world in the development of this course. And for your knowledge, you should know the dependency injection topic as well. The focus of this video won't be to teach all of these topics, but yeah, you should able to know all of these things. That only then you can step up to the real world of NGRX. Now with this, these are just for the component's sake. We have the dependency injection on place. Now, once you are familiar with all of these topics, there are some tools for the Angular, but we'll see it. And we don't need any other else, just the TypeScript support. So I can go to the TypeScript version, TypeScript. This is our TypeScript, and towards TypeScript, we go and deal with this TypeScript. This language is the most crucial in order to play. Without this language, you won't be able to perform anything in Angular world. So make sure you know definitely about this topic as well. Now, again, as already explained, there won't be any further explanation in the TypeScript world because this is not a specific TypeScript course, but definitely TypeScript and Angular, what all topics I have told you should be very much familiar in order to get started with the NGRX. Now, once you have all of this installed, I would definitely like to jump on how you should get started. So first of all, you should get to the Node.js world and you should go to the Node.js. And here you should make sure that you have the latest LTS version of the Node.js installed to your system. Once that is installed to your system, you can verify for your system if you have all the available things. You just need to write node dash dash v node dash v, and you should get the version installed for your node.js. And if and with this you can also check if you have npm node package manager installed to your system, and if you get this version, that means everything is fit and fine and you can proceed for the next one. Perfect. And once you have all of these things, you are pretty much ready to get started, and you can then start for your Angular world. So if I go to my folder where I've created this, here you can open this terminal, and from here you see this terminal. You should click on New Terminal. Now here we would first create a new project, which is going to be ng Redux NGRX. When you click on ng it asks, would you like to have some Angular routing? For now, I will click yes because there might be some instance when we want to make some routes, but I will make it this with Y. Then I will select my style sheet and this will create a brand new course for me, which is the Redux NGRX. Now in the version, we can see that we are using the second top latest Angular version, which is Angular 16, and it will also make Angular available to us. So till the time we get this thing here, just let me make you pretty much familiar that this has TypeScript. And if we see the package version over here, we can then see that we have a TypeScript version 5.1.3. Okay, so we are dealing with the TypeScript version 5.1.3. And with this, we have the Angular 16 alongside some unit test cases. The RxJS is the seventh, 8 RxJS is 8 is in development, so it will be soon available to us as a developer. And here see we see that this project is now ready, and now we can use this project. So I would then recommend you to go to the project, go to this, and you should definitely click this project, and all the files will look exactly like this. Now, once you are ready with this, what I will prefer to do is go to the terminal, and now we need to install NGRX to our system. You can go to the Get Started section from here, and we can click on the installation. Now, on the installation, we have this ng add. We will click this thing, And here we can just copy this command and hit enter. Now this will add this package to our package.json and also will install this thing. Let me just check. Okay, let me just do it a force flag so that this get installed. Let's just do the y in order to make this. Okay, we can install this thing using npm manager directly, which is at the rate ngrx slash store at the rate latest. Latest flag ensures that you get the latest package out of the box. Dash dash force. And now this package is available to us. We can go for the package.json file, and here you can see that we have this NGRX, this one. So here we have the NGRX, and first of all, it's our duties so that we can start this application. So to start this application, we need to do ng-serve. Now this will take care that our application bootstraps for the first time, makes all the necessary files available, and this will then reload at localhost 4200. So if we just zoom in a bit, this is our application over here, where we have so many things, but we can get rid of these things. As you already know, we can go to the app.html file and we can remove everything. Save this file and you get nothing on your screen. Now for demonstration purpose, I will be utilizing Bootstrap because that's free and I can directly apply that to my website so that we have some styling out of the box. And yeah, I just want this right now. So I can go to my index.html file, and here I can link this file just like this with some formatting. And now we will have out of the box our NGRX. Now, if I want NGRX, I can do div. After this div, I can then do a class where I add container, container, and I add empty4, and then inside this container I can then add div of class, and the class will be alert primary. And in this I can then add another div with the class of display 2, and in here I can say redux dash ngrx. Let's together save this file, and here you see this beautiful handwritten text where we can do text center in order to centralize this text. Now all of these things whatever we have written is purely these are class belongs to Bootstrap, so that I don't need to write any SCSS for this course because this course doesn't concentrates on the styling perspective. So now with this, we have our first title onboarded, and from here we shall then start to take uh, NGRX in action. Okay, so that was pretty much it regarding this video. Thanks for watching, and I will now see you in the next one. So, hi there, and welcome back. So, in the previous section, we have studied the installation for the NGRX store along with how we can generate and create a new Angular project. We also attached a CSS library which is named as a Bootstrap so that we can get started with this library for simple yet elegant stylings. And now, before going up with this, I would first of all do something on the screen. First of all, what I would like to really do is I would then Okay, now what I want to do is I will shrink this window just side by side, and then I will again link this video, this folder like this, so that we have a clear picture of what things are happening onto our screens and how we need to deal with that. So now this looks much more clear in my honest opinion. Yeah, and with this I also do border radius, border rounded to let's quickly check for a while. So, but first of all, the main thing would be now we are going to make some input fields, and then we are going to transform that logic into our RxJS world so that you understand like what we are up to and how we need to deal with all of those things. So it would be rounded, or stands for rounded. Yeah, and here I can do it 4. Now this seems to me a good one. I can then also place some rounded nature over here. Yeah, that looks interesting. Now, yeah. Now here, what I'm going to do is I am going to have two input fields, and then those input fields will then consist of some labels, and with those labels then again I will be able to get some values from the user. Okay, so my main thing for this would be to make one normal form. So for this, what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to grab a form like this, a form, and with this form, I am going to create some div where I am going to have a form group, GRUP, just like this, form group. Let me just be very specific. Yeah. And with this form group, I am going to have some label, and the label would be, for example, the username. Okay. So we are taking some label, which is username. I'm going to write some input where the type for this input would be straight away email, and with this email I want some class which is going to be form control like this, and the form control will then I will also supply some ID, and the ID would be, let's say, username. And with this I also want to have some placeholder, and the placeholder would be enter your username, and then I can close this input. I can also format my document a bit. Okay, and here below this input I then want to use some small tag, and in the small tag I want to then have some classes, and in the classes I want to then have form text like this, and also I can do text muted class to make it a bit of a gray, and we say we will never remember your email. And if we save this, you see all of these things are appearing more often a good. And with this I make it to text left, and now these are looking good. And with the username in place, I also want a password check, so I can then make another div with class of form group, just like this. And here I can then grab a label, and the label would be my password, just like this. And with the password I can then grab an input where where my type would be password, and with this my class would be form control. Okay, it will be form control, and the ID would be password, and the placeholder can be enter your password, just like this. And then I can close this thing, and in the small tags where I then have the class of form text where I have then text muted class, just like this, and I can write provide the password for above email, something like this. Okay, so we have these two things in place, and with this we now just do care about a button. So a button which will then submit this form. So for button, I can then write some button, and in the button I then type this button type as submit, because this is going to submit the form. And with this I can have a class which says btn primary, and I can say save, like this. Now this save button btn sm for a smaller button, and save form to save this form. Okay, yeah. And with this I can have a class for empty, just like this, and text would be right aligned. Okay, uh, something like this. Okay, okay. So this is a form, and the structure would be that I write the email and the password. I save this form. My value should get uh, saved, and with this, I should then see a alert over here inside this form somewhere here. I guess I should see a alert that your form values were saved, something like that. So I can write something like your form values were saved, something like this. Okay, so some logic I'm thinking like it should say your firm value was saved, where I have alert success. Okay, and rounded is 4, so it should say something like this: your values were saved. And if your values weren't saved, then there should be something known as, then there can be something. Okay, now there should be a error which says, I think I should take display 4, so yeah, and where I don't have P, I do P0, and I do margin 0. Okay, your form values, I can say error saving form values, something like this we can do. And here we obviously have uh, danger, alert danger for red. So on the basis of saving a form, we have these two states where either your form will be saved or either your form won't be saved. So with this is our form, and now we need to do something. And in order to do those things, first of all, what you need to do, you need to implement, you need to have implements on init. You need to have this on init, which comes from here on init. And with this you can have a constructor in your class, just like this, and then you can do ng on init, something like this. And then you need to initialize this class. You need some sort of additional Angular classes so that we can implement this feature of our reactive form. And before that, what we need to do is, in the form we need to create the form. So we can say user form, which is going to be the type of form group. I import those things. Then I have a username form control, which is going to be of type form control, just like this. And we have a password form control, which is then going to be a form control for our password. So form control, yeah. Now it's good practice that you always and always specify the access modifier for your variable. So here I implicitly explicitly tell that this are the public variables, just like this. Now these should then your private, then your sorry, your constructor should then always grab a form builder, which V stands for FV, and which stands for form builder, something like this, which can again comes from at the rate Angular forms. And here I am gonna increase some size. Okay, it's looking good. Okay, and here what I'm gonna do is just to make it look more neater and nicer, I will grab a div and will then grab a class which says form underscore container, so something like this. And then I'm gonna specify some flexbox for this so that this is central. So display is flex. Okay, display is flex. My flex direction is towards column. I want to justify contents over the center. I want to align my items toward the center. And if I save everything, so nothing changed. But as soon as I apply some height to this, as soon as I apply some height to this, let's say 100 VH, my form is in center now. Okay. Now with this, I then want to write two values and then save my form. Okay. So how I can do that? What you want to do now is, and one more thing, what I will really like to do is I don't want this thing to be like this. Can save this thing just like this, and let's do a bit of formatting and can say this is text primary, just to show that yeah, this is in here text info, and let's bring it in center, so text center to bring it in center, and then some padding. Obviously p2 would be nice, p3 can also be, but p2 p2 is always nicer, and pb3 we can take for some, but from the top I want padding to be 0. Okay, obviously we can then grab p3, even p4 could work for us. Yeah, so this is Redux NGRX, and here we are now good with what we are planning to do. I can again grab this. Okay, I don't want anything like this, but we can do p5, and I say Angular, so that you always are clear what we are doing. Angular state management. Okay, Angular state management, and here I can do p6 to be more clear what we are doing, and yeah, pb will be only one in this case, which is fine. And here I can do pb to 2 or 3 or 4. Yeah, so now this is looking a bit nicer. Okay, so Redux NGRX, which is Angular State Management Solution. It's a solution. Okay, it's a solution where you can use SUP for N. So it's solution. Okay, cool. One thing more, what I would like to do is for my body, I will like to do it a BG dark in this scene. Okay, I need to reload this, and now it's looking much more nicer in my opinion, in my frank opinion. And here to our this one where we have entire thing in one place. Here is our form which we are gonna use. So till now we are happily developed this feature. Now next thing in this would be to make a function, and with before that I will also add one more thing, which is some box shadow around this thing. So this is going to be SHADOW shadow. And for the shadow, I'm going to use LG so that this thing can really stand out from our normal box. So it's shadow LG. And trust me, I can see that color in action. And I can also prove it to you if I add some color. You can see that I'm able to see. Okay, I'm able to see that color. Really frank speaking, I am yet able to see that thing in action, but obviously that depends how you are dealing with all of those things. But I can make sure that you are really seeing that in action. Well, let me just check where we were. Yeah, we were here. Okay, so yeah, okay. Hmm, okay. Now, because we don't have any success or errors, that's why what I'm going to do over here is my submission status. So I can say public is from submission status. Okay, we can do is submitted, which is going to be a boolean prop. So and another one is error, which is again a boolean state. So I can then grab a boolean state for this one like this, and I can then check if this one is submitted, then only I am interested to show this one. So I say is submitted, and if there is an error, then only I want to display this activity here, just like this. Yeah. So if we save everything, now you see we don't have those messages anymore. And with this, what I easily understood is we need to have a display of class, or we can have a h6 for now. H6, h5 will also there, and we can say please fill your credentials. Okay, this is fill. Please fill your credentials, or if you want, you can also write it in a in a manner of pure I should say in a pure English way. You can do anything, okay? You can do anything what you prefer. You can play along, you can have whatever you want, okay? And form, I should then say from top, I need two padding, please, or basically four padding, please, okay? Three would be fine, okay? And for this, let's have some padding, which is PT2, okay? Or we can say details, okay? Yeah. Now with this, okay, with this, now what we wanna do is, and if you want, you can go along and do whatever things you want. Okay, so this card where we have this alert light, let me also show you with the warning. So it looks something like this. If you want, again, you can do it some light, and here you have everything. This is it where you can do a warning for this yellowish tone of color. Okay, this is a yellowish tone, so it's up to you how would you want to deal. I have shown you all the solutions to it. Okay, Now we have to connect this form group with our form group. So this is a form, and here we'll do form group, and the form group over here will be our form group. And in order to submit this class, we need ng submit this directive, and here you are going to say on submit form, something like this, on submit form, like this. We need to make sure that this exists over here. That's why we will make this method like this. And now it complains that form group is not a non-element. So how we are going to do that? We are going to our app.module, and here we need to import the forms module, the reactive forms module, and the common module. We need all of those things from the Angular world so that we can work. And now this is no longer complaining. Now here we can then do console.log and we check what is there inside our user form dot values to obtain the values of the form group. But till now this isn't available. So what you need to do, you need to do this dot user form group is equal to this dot fb dot group, and then personally you have to create the group of what you require. Okay, so I can here then grab something like this, and here I can say that my username is equal to this dot user form control, something like this, and my password would be equal to this dot password form control. And from here I can then grab my value to log in the value. Now, if I go on the inspect solution for this, and let me just bring this window to an absolute side, where I can manage this window toggling via, we do have some sort of functionalities where I can manage this thing, I guess. We have a movement of this one. Let me just check. Okay, here, let's click on this save form, and you see you get this value. Let me just increase the size a bit, and here you can see that we have the user and the password as null. So what my criteria would be to show that if I have some problem, something like this, I have some problems like I see over here, then what would be my ideal solution during this case? My ideal solution during this case would be to then store something like this: const form values is equal to this dot user form group dot value dot, and from the value I can grab the username. Or you can also do object destructuring, where I can accept the username and I can then expect the password like this. And then we check if username or password are not there are not there, then what we want to do, we want to do we want to call the alert, and we want to say credentials credentials are invalid. And if this thing is fine, we don't have we have all of the values, then we proceed to our logic. So if we check, if we save the form, we say credentials are invalid. If we write something, we say credentials are invalid. And if we again write something, we then are obviously going to get everything. But here you can always and always create some interesting lines, whatever you want. Or in my personal frank opinion, what you should always do is you should attach validation. You should attach validation to your form. So for that, what you need to do is you need to then do validator, and in the validator, you need to then pass exactly what you want. Okay, what you want to validate in this. Okay, But here I will be showing you one easier way where if you see that here it accepts the form, but I then want to personally target this form group, this one, and then add validation to this group. More on this video will be coming to the next part of this video. Thanks for watching, and I will now see you in the next one. Hi and welcome back. So continuing this part 2 for the previous video, what we have learned was how we can create a form in Angular and how we can transform that form later into the NGRX world. Who am I? I'm Siddhartha Verma. I'm really fond of technologies. Very passionate. I have achieved many things in life and still learning a lot of things. For more on that, you can check out my channel and you can learn more about me. But for now, let's continue with this thing. So here in this world, we have the username, we have the password from this dot username, and we want to attach some validation over here. So what we ideally should be the solution that to this, you need to then assign something like this. We can now do this dot username form control will be equal to new form control, something like this, where I then specify what validators do I require. So this form by default will have a null value, and the validators would be validators dot required. This value is required. Now same goes for the password field. So password form control, new form control, null validators dot required, something like this. Now I can also provide validators dot email, okay, and validators dot min length, and the min length should be 6 in my case. Okay, so we save this thing. There are many and many things what we can do for the validation, but for now I will keep this logic simpler so that you understand the core important logic of transformation. But this is how something will look like in action. Okay, now we have the validation in place. That means here I can check here if this dot user form dot invalid, then I can say alert, or I have this flags here is error. I can say this dot is error is equal to true, and then I can show my message onto the screen where I have provided that scenario. Your form values were saved, but we have this error saving the form, error saving the form values, okay, invalid credentials, then we can show this message likely. So if we go to our TS file over here, yeah, we set this true and we can return our file. Okay. If this is not the case, then we set this dot is error to false, because might be that we have deal with this. But again, if we see error saving the values, invalid credentials. Okay. And what I can do now, uh, I can do something like go to the file to your template file, and here I can then specify this one, uh, alert danger, receiving the form, and here I can specify button like this button, and the button will then do a reset, and here I can do call class, which is btn and btn danger, and I can then save this thing. Okay, and then what this button is going to do is it's going to reset form and then also reset my error. So here I can then call the method reset form, and here what now I'm going to do is this dot user form dot reset. I'm going to call the reset method, and with this I'm also going to specify this dot uh, is error back to false. So this is my is reset in action. I can then press click, and on this click, I then wanna sorry, oops, I wanna then link my this function. I wanna call it whenever this scenario is there. Let's format the bit of the code, could be T as well, and yeah. Now if I click on this, I can call the reset and everything resets, and I can show you this thing. If I just remove this thing, I save, I can reset, and it will eventually reset. Uh, this is not resetting because we till now haven't attached any controls to it, but I will now show you how to attach. I can now say form control, and now I can specify the control, which is the username form control. The same thing can be done if I attach the form control to the password field, which says password form control like this. And now you see if I write something, if I try to save, if I try to reset, everything gets resetted. Absolutely niche, perfect. Now, once all of these things are done, I have my form values, and if everything is correct, I can then log my username. I can then log my username and password, and if this is there, then I can set my is submitted to true, and if is submitted is true, uh, and then I can majority of my logic is done for now. So if I say admin 123, I save my form, it still says error saving the form. Why? Let me check. Yeah, because that's because if you see my requirements, it's email. Okay, so it should be at the rate gmail.com. And now if I save, you see your form was saved. Okay. One more thing, what I realized here, instead we should have always have is error to false, because we aren't, that means your errors are not there and everything is perfect with your code. Let's try one more time. I then say, let's say Siddharth at the rate gmail.com, and password should be 12345. If I say 5, I have to save the form because my validation says I should have 6 length. I then provide 6 length, and you see your form values were saved, and I can then see my real values being logged onto the screen. So this was pretty much it regarding this video. Here we saw how we can connect a form, what all things are required, and how things are happening in a normal Angular world. Now, in the next part of this video, which is going to be part 3, we are going to introduce to you the NGRX store, and how you can create some other things in order to incorporate some logic, and then the same behavior won't be available through through all of these things, but the same behavior will be logged in with NGRX stuff. Thanks for watching, and I will now see you in the next one. So hi there and welcome back. So we are back again with this video where we left with a good form which was doing its stuff. It was doing some validation, basic validation. It was validating the user. It was checking on the fields. We have a good UI in terms of a normal form, and then we were also saving the correct form over here. Now with this, it was really being able to show you how these things are delivered in the Angular world. But now we are going to convert the entire thing into an into a Redux NGRX solution. So this is Siddharth Verma, and we are going to continue with this course, and let's see. And if you really like this video, please stay continue with us. Do definitely support us so that we always and always try to deliver some valuable things to you in this tech world. because sharing is caring and sharing increases your knowledge. Okay, so first of all, before going to this, we are first of all going to make some folder structure which are essential whenever you are going to deliver some NGRX solutions. So over here, we are going to then create a folder which is NGRX like this. Okay, or you can do it as a Redux, but you can store anything like Redux. And in the Redux, I then want to support a index.ts file, and here in the Redux folder, I'm then going to create a folder which is known as a store. And this store basically will deal as the main area where I can store my solutions, where I can store my actions, my reducers, and my effects. All of these terms will later explain individually. But here, first of all, we need to store some values. And in order to store those values, here, basically, you should have three folders, which are actions, as per the NGRX pattern and the Redux pattern. Here should be the reducers, and then here should be another file which is effects. Okay, and then here should be another folder which are named as selectors, like this. Now each of these personal files should have their own index.ts. Okay, so this file should always be here, here, and here. Let's now quickly close everything, and now you get a basic idea that there should be the actions, here should be the effects, here should be the reducers, and here should be the selectors. And with this form, now we should take more often to the things in action. Now once we notice that here should be the actions, we also need the effects, we also need the reducers, we also need the selectors. First of all, I would really like to go through the actual NGRX concept. Now, if we go towards our introduction, here we see that we have different things, and in the store, I have, if you remember, I have really explained you all the state management lifecycle for the NGRX solution. Now here we have this selector, we have the component, we have the action, we have the effects and the services. Okay, but first of all, the main entity what we are dealing with would be the actions. This one, the actions. Now in the actions, if you want to create the action are the main source of communication between your component, your effects, your reducers, and between all of those entities. Actions pretty much describe what you are going to perform and which action you want to pursue. So these actions serves the purpose of dispatching anything from a component and then grabbing that, doing some plus and minus, and then grabbing the state back to you. Also, NGRX and the Redux pattern somewhere behind the scenes remembers each and everything, logs each and everything based on these actions. These actions will serve then as a log by which you can understand what all things happen, for what purpose, and when, with the help of these action statements. Now, in order to create this action, and we can go to the architecture, we need to first of all create such action. So if we come again to our application where we were having our application and we were having a code, here we want to create this so-called action. So in the actions file, I can then do authentication.actions.ts file like this, authentication.actions.ts file. Now here we need to import something from our @ngrx/store, and that something will be a function which is known as create action. Now, it's always recommended that you always write your action in a constant and then use those constants everywhere. For example, what actions do I can perform? I can perform a login and a login success or login failure. These are my three actions what I'm gonna do. So on login action, and the state of the action could be now really something like this. So I can do here, it needs the component we are working in So I'm working in app component. Okay, I'm working in app component and state your action over here. So it's login action. Okay. Okay. Another action could be const on login success action. There can be some success when your credentials are correct and you submit the form, that is known as a success action. So app component where I have login success action, something like this. You do. Now with this, I can also say on login failure action. That means your action, your attempt to log in was failed, and your data knows that you were failed while pursuing that action. So I can say component, app component, and I can name this thing as login failure, failure action, something like this. So if we see here, we understand that these are nothing but a way to represent your actions. These are normal strings, and somewhere they represent the original state for what you are trying to do itself. Okay, these are like some solution by which you can tell what things you are trying to achieve. Okay. Now, once you have this actions, you are going to create some action for this. And this create action really helps you to bind, to club your actions and what all inputs and outputs you require to perform those actions. Now, you will understand all of these extra things in a bit once I can show you some solutions. So I can say const on login, on login, and this shouldn't be the action term. This should be just the normal terms, just like this, my bad. And you should then name it as action. And here you are going to create some actions like this. And similarly, you are going to create action for on login success action. This is my success action. I can do create action, and then I can do const on login failure action, where I then also do create action like this. Now, these callback functions requires you to pass the action statements where you want to work. And while performing that action, if you have some logic to be performed, then you need to give them some properties like what will be the proper payload, what will be the proper inputs in order to complete this action. So I say that in order to complete the on login, you need some props, and the props and props means the properties, and the props here would be username, which is going to be of type string, and the password, which is again going to be of type string. And once you have provided the input, you need to call this thing. Okay. And this props also comes from the NGRX store props. Okay. So these are the props where I specify that when login happens, you need this thing to work. Okay. Also, what I can now do is if my login succeeds, then what will be my props? My props will be is login. Yeah, I can say login success message needs to be provided. A login success message needs to be provided, or I can say another thing, which is a status. Now, a status can be of two kinds of. It can be a success, it can be a failure. So I can then do const, or I can then give it a type. I can then do a type. Login status can be two, success or failure. There can be only two aspects to one's life. So here then I give that if on login success, it should be a login status, and more often the status should login status, and there should be some message which is of type string. And if there is a failure, then you should always and always give some status which can be a login status, and where my message can be a string. And with this, I need to also call this props. Okay. Now I understood that this should be an enum. Okay, this should be an enum where I then specify that the success leads to success and my failure then leads to the failure property. Like this. Let's format this code a bit, and then this should be dot success and this should be failure. And now these all things should be exported from this file. So you can export your terms here just like this with all of these values, just like this, like this. Let's hit save, and yeah, it should be something like this now. So here we have seen many things. We have created an enum to specify the status. We have the on login success, on login failure. We have actions, and now we have exported those actions. Now, in order to use all of these things, there are more things to it, but this is how you create an action in Angular and NGRX world. Let's see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. I will now see you in the next one. Hello there and welcome back. So in the previous video, we have seen how you can create certain actions to whatever you desire for your application in NGRX. And we also saw that in order to create an action, NGRX follows a separate way, a separate path, so that those actions are really understandable and those are differentiated into multiple steps, different steps. Now we also saw that in order to create a so-called action, you need create actions and the props from the NGRX store. And using those actions and using those terminologies, you then create some actions and then finally export them out of those files. Who am I? I'm Siddhartha Verma, and here your host is going to explain you further bits of NGRX in this course. Now let's continue with where we left over here. Now here, as you can see, we have this create actions, props, enums, and everything over here. Now next stage for us comes the reducers. Now, if we go to our browser here, after the actions comes the reducers, and the reducers in NGRX are responsible for handling the transition from one state to the next state in your application. Reducer functions handle this transition by determining which action to handle based on the action type. And you see just now that we created some actions, and now it's the duty of reducers to come into action. Okay, now it's a duty for the actions to be in the in this in this race. So let's go to our VS Code. Let's bring up the our old browser where we were having this. Yeah, let's continue. Now, you remember I created this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do export everything from this file, newly created file. Now going to the reducers, here I will then create a new file which says authentication.reducers.ts. And as you would expect, we require something from our @NGRX store. And that something would then be straight away create reducer. Just as a create action, we are now going to create a reducer. Now we also want to import something from our actions. Okay, we also want to grab our actions, but before we do this, we are going to create our auth reducer, where we are going to then create our reducer. And now this is interesting. Now we need to have our initial state. We need our initial state so that we can tell this Redux pattern NGRX that yeah, this is our initial state, and on top of this state we want to create our actions. So here we can create our initial state, and our initial state would be something like this, that our username for now is blank, our password is now blank, our is success is now blank. Okay, and is success is now not blank, it's false currently. And then our is error is false. So this is my initial state. Okay, and now this initial state needs to be provided over here. Now this is the first thing what any one of you would do. So, and from here we can export default our auth reducer. So it's a default export from here. Now the major and most required thing for you would be to understand that reducers are where this state will be manipulated so that our UI gets the state bits from this file, from this authentication reducer file over here. This state represents the entire state of our application or for that component. So from here, now I'm first of all going to take our on login action. And here you need to then import another function which is on, because reducers says you need to now provide on what type of action you want to perform the task. So I say that I want to perform my task based on so and so action, and it should be. And then what do you get? You get your state over here and whatever action you prefer, and then you want to deal with that thing like this. Let's format our code, and here this state represents to what you have provided as initial one, and the actions represent to what this consists of. Currently this consists of the username and the password. So here, let's say you have obtained something, okay, from here. So what I can do is I can then return, first of all, I need to copy everything from the state. And then if you see, I have all of these properties, what I want to do. Here, I don't want to do anything, but just I'm going to return everything to this state, okay? But if we can go to our actions over here, here I generally speaking, I don't require all of these things currently, but here my property would be is success, okay, Boolean. And here, generally speaking, my property would just be is error, Boolean, just like this, okay. And if I can then go back to my reducers, now I can write some logic for my success one. So it's on login success. What I want to do is on login success action. This one is the action. So you need to have that create action functions built. Here I then get my state, here I then get my action, okay. And here what I would prefer you to is you then return, and what you return is the actual thing. Currently you see in your initial state is success is false, is error is false. But if you know that if you have your login success, then your is success would be equal to the action dot is success, whatever action you pass from your effect. But right now we are not dealing with such actions. That's why this will be my final state. and manually doing, but my is error here would be set to false. Because if this is a success, then there is no point of making the is error to true. It should always be false. Okay, this should always resolve to false. But on the other hand, if you're dealing with on login failure action, then this is quite understandable that when you receive your state, you copy all the properties from state, but now your is, but now on this point, on this point, let's return something from here first of all, like this, and now I spread the state. But here, now what actual things you want to do is it's the state, not the status. Yeah, your is success is definitely meant to be is success is now false, and your is error is set to whatever action dot is error is provided from my effect. So this is how you manage your state here. Okay, this is how you manage your state, like this. This is the original version of reducers, how you manage your state. And always you don't something try to do something like this, but here you always try to create an interface for your state, which I can say as initial state. Okay, initial auth state, and then you need to supply like what all values can be there. So string username should always be a string. Your password should again always be a string. Then your is success should always be a string, and your is error should always be a string, like this. And now this original initial state should meant over here, okay, which is success should be here, is error, and oops, my bad, it should be a boolean property, and your create reduces value is initial state. Now this is a bit of a TypeScript one. So in this video, we have seen a clear idea how we can create this reducer part. Okay, so this is how you create a reducer where each of your create reducer is just the is entire initial state, entire state management solution for your entire component or application, and where it behaves on initial state, it needs some basic foundation to run on, and then it accepts some on function separated by different commas where we can have different on statements, and on different action it deals with your state. Okay, so this is redux in action, redux in action for the reducers concept. So here till now we have seen two things, combining the actions and the reducers together, and with this I should then export my export everything from my auth reducers page. So that was pretty much it regarding this video. Thanks for watching, and I will now see you in the next one. So hi there and welcome back. So again in this video we are going to continue from where we have left off, and now we are going to take a closer look at our effects. Now till now we have seen a closer look at the actions, the reducers, but now third pillar for this would be our effects. Now, NGRX have effects as a separate use case. So that's why we are going to install this at the rate NGRX effects at the latest. So if we can go to our project and can open up our project as well, we need to click on a new one. And here we are going to do npm install this dash dash app to force this installation. Yeah, that's because currently we are dealing with Angular 16 and this package brings the 17th version of this. That's why I'm using this force flag. But that doesn't mean that you also would use this one. You should always get the same latest version. Now, With this, we have the effects into action, and now we can work upon our effects here as well. Now, if we can go to our store in the effects, here we can now create our authentication.effects.ts file. Now, as till now you might have understood the way it works, we need to first of all import something from @NGRX effects, and that something will be create effect and of type. Now, if before going to work with the effects, first of all, you need to know few of the important things. The first important thing would be in this thing that you should have a good knowledge of, you should definitely have a good knowledge of RxJS. RxJS observables and different operators what we have that should be pretty much quick on your hands. And let me just show you. This is RxJS, okay, and you should have a good knowledge for this one because most of effects utilizes the concept of RxJS, okay, so you should be familiar with that thing. Now that thing being said, now what we really want to capture is what we want to capture is in order to create effect, you first need to call injectable. And when you have the injectable, then you want to create an export default class. You want to export as a default class, and the class name for this would be authentication effect. Okay. Now, in this effect class, you can have the constructor, and this constructor will then grab the actions, what are actions you have defined, and this will come from the actions file. And these are, sorry, the actions from not the store, but from the effects, because now effects know all of those actions and can then perform accordingly. Now, what is the actual logic behind using the effects? Now, effects always and always must be used when you want to make your components function pure. That means there should be no use of local storage, there should be no use of asynchronous tasks, or there should be no use of even the console logs to your components. That makes the component looks fat. And the way effects work, they extract the logic and all the HTTP requests, all the local storage or the browser storage concepts should be used over here. And this will then manipulate the reducer, and then they will finally get the data, whatever you want. Let's look at an example over here really quick. So I want to create an effect on login effect. Okay. And here I want to create an effect. And now this effect really wants the action for what you want to perform this. So for here, I want to perform this for on login. So I supply this on login and I can import that from here. And then, sorry, first of all, you need to pipe from the actions. And then in this, you need to get of type, and here you need to provide what type of action you want to perform, like this, of type this. Okay, and you can do one more thing. You can just go to this thing, and here we can go to the overview, And in the overview, you can also see what all things we are now going to do in this. So let's say this is my effect, load movies, and this load movies would take a type, and then we do some of the extra stuff. So same this thing we are going to achieve over here. So once this thing is done, this off type thing is done, as we also see over here, this off type thing is done, then you need to use the exhaust map, and then this exhaust ham, what it will do, it will then give you what you actually want to do. Okay, so basically you are creating an effect, you are basically using this pipe like we do over here, and then the straight away things are over here. Now in here, as you can see over here as well, in here on login is my type app component login action, and here what I want to do generally is I then want to return an action. So I want to check for some case. But here, as you can see, here I get the username and the password. So here I know I will be getting the action, and the action will consist of the username of type string and the password of type string, like this. And from here, I can then grab those values. And if you see over here, exhaust map, they are using some services. Okay, they are doing some extra stuff which you don't need to have all of those things. Okay, you don't need to just figure out all of these kind of things, not required anymore. But here main thing is, and it's also not sure that you want to always use this exhaust map. You can use the tap operator as well, that's completely fine. Okay, and with this tap operator, I can then do anything. Okay, whatever my choice is, I can do anything. Let me just quick check what it's trying to do. Is not able to type this effects result providing no signature. Okay, okay, so here I can do something like observable of type any. Right now let's remove this thing. Okay, and here I then return, or you don't return, it doesn't matter. Okay, it doesn't matter. So actually now you want to think of exactly what you want to achieve over here. So in my use case, what I want to achieve from this thing will be that my action is now working on of type login. And here, when I work on off type login, what I should expect now is that I then use the tap operator, and then I try to do something on that tab. And what you want to do, or truly realize what you want to do. Let's say I will grab some values, and if you see on login one, on login this thing, okay, see you get this username and the values over here, the username and the value. So here you are obviously gonna receive something, and if we can see, you are going to receive definitely something, and that thing we can see while we dispatch something from here from a component. But right now I just want to do a console log towards this thing. Let's grab state. Okay, and I want to check the state, where I can also tell my actions that I don't want to dispatch anything from this effect. Okay, dispatch means that it's always a rule that whenever you write one effect, you should always and always dispatch something from that. Okay, it expects you to just dispatch something else. But right now we just want a console log over this on login effect. Now, in order to check this out, how this works, first of all, you need to go and do something like export everything from this file, this authentication file. Let's quickly check this file. Okay. And now once these things are done, you can do like export. everything from each of the individual files, like am I doing from the store, but uh, not from the store, sorry, but from the store. And the store then should have its separate index.ts file where I can export individual segments like the action, like the effects, and we also developed another file which is reducers. Yeah. And now when you have all of this thing done, now you need to go to your app module, and here you need to grab the store module just like this. You need to do for root, and in this you need to provide your reducer. So for example, I'm doing an authentication store, authentication, or you can do auth store, which is equal to authentication reducer, authentication auth reducer, just like this. Okay, you can do something like this, auth reducer. And with this, I also need effects module, and in the effects module for root, and I can set up my effect over here. And these whatever settings I am doing is also available over here. So I'm here gonna provide my authentication effect like this. Now with this, you should always try to check if there are no errors, and if we can check up our project that do we have any errors for this project. Let's quickly look real quick. We don't have any errors. And now here, I know there's so much of boilerplate code for just writing the store, but we can see our actions are ready, then our reducer is ready, and then our effect is also ready, the login effect. Now, just what we as an individual want to do is we go to our app.component, and now here into this file, we then wanna import something to our constructor, and that something would be private store, and that will be a store, and this store comes from the NGRX store. And in this store, I know that my store's state consists of a auth store, okay, consists of an auth store. And if you see over here, our auth store is of type auth reducer. You know this one, okay? So this is our state, this one, right? So here we know that our store has an auth store, but before this, I just want to simply show you that this is our store, and now simply we can dispatch some actions from this. So in order to dispatch the action, now you are not going to perform all of this logic over here, but you are going to do this dot store dot dispatch, and dispatch is a function which requires an action which you want to dispatch. And here in my case, I want to just dispatch an action which is on login action, on login. Okay, so on login, this one action, this not the actual, yeah, this function one. And now this login action requires two props, username and the password. So I can then supply those values here. Yeah, I first wanna just check for the value. If when I wanna do this, if this dot store dot store dot sorry this dot user form dot invalid, or sorry, is valid, then I want to dispatch these values. And in the values, I then want to provide my user form dot value, okay, uh, like this. And here I can then spread my values, because I know that there is going to be in this I'm getting the username and the password. Both of the values will be available inside this thing. Now, if you want to test this in real life, what we can do now is let's try to do some testing now. Okay. So here, let's go to quickly go to our sources, and here let's quickly go to our effects, authentication effects here, and let's grab something like this. Okay. Now, as soon as I type some value, for example, test at the rate gmail.com, and I write 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, I save on form, you see I get something in this effect. And if you just see here, I get the password, I get the username, and I get the type. And the type is app component login action. That means my reducer is working. My entire effect solution is working. That's really brave. Congratulate yourself. So this is your first step towards your NGRX learning curve, where successfully you know that something will be coming from here. Now, when you know that something is going to complete, so let's quickly complete our logic for this. So if you can see over here in our effects file here, we have this thing, right? So what we can now do is we can extract our username, password from our state, whatever state we are getting from our initial passed values state. And now what? And now whatever logics you are performing over here, those logics should be performed there. So what we can do, we need to check if if those are not those are valid and all of those things. But here, I know as these values are there, so I can do if for additional check, I can check if not username. Okay. But as you can see here, I already applied this guard. If this is valid, then only this thing will dispatch. So here, what now I can really do is I need to call on login success action like this. And now I can simply call this thing and I can pass the props to it. I can pass what I want to do. For example, this thing require is success, and I can say is success is set to true. Okay, this success is set to true. And when this is set to true, if username and password, and here logic I can set it something like if username is equal to admin and my password is equal to 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, at that moment I need to uh, set this thing as true. Otherwise or I can just perform if else here. If this is the case, let's do this. Else on login failure action, I want to then do is error set to true. So we are managing both the states over here. You can see we are managing those actions here. Now, once this thing is done, you see now our reducer will come in action where it's continuously listening for the login for the success, and this action dot is success will be passed from the effects, and action dot is error will be passed from the effects. Now we can surely listen for this value, and for listening this value, we need to understand the concept of selector. Thanks for watching, and I will now see you in the next video. So hi there and welcome back. So till now our learning curve for this NGRX Redux store have been really amazing. I'm really enjoying teaching you the reducers, actions, effects, everything about NGRX and the Redux pattern. I really do love, and in my own tech career, I greatly use reducers, whether it's a Angular project, whether it's a Vue project, or whether it's a React project, or any of the technologies. Redux fits in very best. So, with all this thing said, you know how actions, effects, and the reducers are working. But we still are left with how selectors work in Redux. So who am I? I'm Siddhartha Verma, and let's continue with this video. So over here, if you can see on this VS Code, we were left with this, okay? And now we need to create a selector. So in order to create a selector, we can do authentication dot selector dot yes. And now, as you are familiar with the terminology, we need to import something from. And another thing would be if you can go to your browser really quick, okay? Here in the store, you see in the architecture, we have the selectors, and the selectors would be also be available in the NGRX store. So here we can do at the rate NGRX store, and here we can then use create selector, and now we need to select basically two things, which is success is success, and from where can we get that is success. For that, really go to the document, and here you can see you always want to tell what is your app state, okay, and then that state really have whatever you want, and then you can extract. So is success, you get it from, you have the state, and you know what your state looks like. You can see over here, okay, you know how it looks, okay, how it behaves, how it looks, you know. So for that, we need to do a little bit of refactoring. So here in the reducers, you know what was your initial state, okay, this was your initial state, this one. So we can copy this for now, and we can place this state over here, where we can tell this one as this is our app state, app auth state currently, and our app auth state as this right now, as you can also see, okay, this one. Now, if you see this, then we are clearly that we have all of those things, right? We have so many things in action. But currently, this is not how it should be pretended. But if you see over here, if you see over here, you have a feature state where it says some counter of type number is there, but your feature state is type of this one, like this. And then, but if you go below this thing, if you see over here, then you state for reducer would home number and away was number. Then you have your initial state, and then you will deal with it. And then all of this thing comes into action. You can see over here, right? But now when you are dealing with such things, if you see the selector thing, it accepts you that you give it a app state, and then from the app state, you can select different bits of spaces. Now, before I can come to this part, okay, before I can come to this part, let me just show you one thing. In your app component, when you were trying to dispatch something from this store is able to get you the value because of this registration, this one, auth store, okay, and your auth was initial auth state. So that means if you go to your selector here really quick, here we go. Here you need two properties. Suppose dot is success, and if I can go is error, you can go to state. We know that it's app state. Here we can really quick grab our is error state, right? So this is the one thing what we have done wrong. So once you have all of these states, now these states can be exported like this: is success, then is error. Okay, cool. And with this, we can also try to do something else, which is success selector, is success selector. And here you then try to create a selector where I have this selector, and then I point to S where I get back my S, which is the state. And then I also point to my is error selector, just like this, where I then grab my selector, and this selector will get me my original state back. Okay. And now these two things should be exported from here like this. Now these two things you can utilize in your just let me export everything from this file, from this file, and then um, the selectors can also be exported from this file really quick. Selectors like this. Yeah. Now into your component over here, you can import that thing, and you can form something like public is error and a dollar because that's observable. So here we can do this dot store, okay, this dot store dot select, and now you want to select what function you need to map to. So it's is error selector. Okay, this is my main thing what I need to select from that thing. Okay, this is my is selector. Please look into this. If you have any problem, you can check it out. But this is the way how you select it. So now with this, what we really have is success with the stored success selector, the same as we did, and similar for the error as well. I did this for you so that you all can see this with this and we don't waste any further time. Yeah. So private store is of type store, which is the app state. And app state, you can see we have the auth store, and the auth store relies on the app auth state where username and password, and we are really clear with this. The store has the auth store, and its selector is s dot is success, and its error is s dot is error. Everything is there. Yeah. Now these properties are observable of type boolean. That means now this can be subscribed instead of these two. Okay, instead of these two properties, and one would be here. Okay, and instead of removing, I think I should only comment those so that you can see where we changed the real code. And now instead of this, we just need to make our templates to accept these things. So if this is a success, we can use the async pipe, and if this is a error, we can use the async pipe like this. So we are now listening for both of these things via our store, and just we need to dispatch something in order to check this out. Okay, this one. Cool. Now, if we see everything real quick, I can set up 5 4 3 2 1, and this is not setup. It should be admin and 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, and if I hit save form, then something should have been there. Let's see what all things have been wrong, but I don't think so that there might be some problems. And I just want to show you another way. Whenever you do something like dispatch to false, okay, something like this, because you are currently doing some dispatch work. That's why you need to import a store from here, store. And we know that a store is of type app state like this. We have this store, and the store will comes from NGRX store. Great. And now here, instead of this, you can do something like this store dot dispatch. Okay. And in this dispatch function, you can always call this thing like this. And in a similar fashion, you can also call this thing here like this. Cool. And then, and then what you want to do is with this, when you have done such things, then you always and always wanna catch some errors because RxJS and with the help of this Redux and NGRX, it forces you to always and always provide a fallback if there is some error, then at that time what your effect should do. If it meets some error, then what should be the scenario? Because errors can occur anytime. You can't always rely on a single result. You should always provide some fallback as well. And that's the beauty of such things. You should provide some fallback so that never ever we are having some problem like this. So one solution for dispatching such thing is this, but on the other hand, one solution for this could be that instead of directly doing something like this, for you, I will leave this thing like this in a comment, but I will show you with another approach where I will map something like this. Okay, I will also copy this entire line like this, and then I will surely do it something like this. And with this in mind, I can also catch errors if there are some. So if there is some error, for now, I will just give an empty operator for this. Okay, so here we are again dispatching with what all things we want to do. Let's save everything for really quick. Let's save this file, and if we see some errors, we have something like this. But here, if we turn our dispatch to false, I think we won't see something. Let's see if we really get something on the screens. No, that's because we have turned this thing. By default, it's always going to be true. Okay, by default, it's always a true solution. But right now, this says that type void, observable void is not assignable because right now we aren't returning anything. In real scenario, we aren't returning anything, and instead we should always return something. So that means what I am going to do currently is I am gonna return this one, or I am gonna return this approach here like this. And if we save and if we reload, then everything works as expected. If I see I have saved this file, and if I then try to type something, I can see that something would be happening. And in order to check what all things are happening, let's bring up our dev tool over here, this dev tool, and now we can uh, do some debugging where we can come on this one, and here we can now reload our page so that the debugger is active. Let's give it a fake values. Let's hit on save form, and are we listening? Let's really check this thing. Are we listening? Okay. Do we have some errors? Let's check. For some reason, our click is not working. Let's see if we did something wrong with our template. Our template website's over here. We have this function which says on submit form. Okay, I understood. This is because still our username and value doesn't match. Let's give it fake values, and now let's save our form. Let's check onto the screens what happens. Okay, now with the help of the debugger, let's check. Okay, if the username is nothing, then we play and you see error saving the form and it's invalid. Okay, because we need our admin. But as we know that these sort of things are not happening because right now we have that emails required validity. That's why we gonna change our effect condition a bit, and we'll ask if this is test.com. There should be something.com, something like this. So if we do SIDD at the rate, or we need admin, right? So admin at the rate test.com, and 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, and we hit save form. You see your form value was saved. So this was the entire logic how you can perform everything using, you can perform such things with RxJS. So three pillars to rewind. In the next video we are going to do a revision of whatever we have studied. So this was really in action how you do perform some tasks using action, effects, reducer, and selectors. Thanks for watching, and I will now see you in the next one. So hi there and welcome back. So it was a great routine where we have seen NGRX in action into our applications, where we saw how we can transform a normal Angular written core foundational and by heart-to-heart written Angular's logic can be converted to accept the Redux state. Or I can say that Redux terminologies with the help of NGRX into your applications. Now, we saw how things work and what all terms, what all pillars are crucial while you are dealing with NGRX into your applications. Now let's get a further revision of what we did so far so that we are clear like what all things we would be doing in the upcoming videos. Who am I? I'm Siddhartha Verma, and I'm really passionate towards different technologies. You can always find me on my channel, Create Finders, and yeah, Create Finders on YouTube. And yeah, I will be there if you anytime need me. I'm always there to help. So now, coming back to this video, here we started our journey with the actions file. Here, it was really required that you define all of your actions, whatever you feel like this can be my action. You always need to mention these into the action props where you have the create action. You specify your handwritten actions with some properties like whatever you feel could be the input and the output for this. Next, followed by this, we went towards the reducers, which are the actual state management solution to the entire application, where we saw that we require a create reducer function, which helps to bind the entire focused app state for that particular application, or let's say that particular feature, or that particular component. Now, each and every action can be separated out with using this on callback, where you need to pass that action which you created using the create action over here, and in here you really get the state and the actions whatever you supply. Now, you never ever reassign the state to the state, but you always pull out everything from the state and then modify it so that nothing is lost in your application. Now, it's a rule that create create reducer always requires initial state. Okay, it always needs initial state. Now initial state is the definition of your application, how it will look like. Okay, now when you have this reducer bridge in place, you always rely on the effects, and effects is a way where you can just make your normal component functions pure, and each of everything regarding the logic falls into this effect world over here. Now, effects generally should return or should dispatch another action, but if you are not planning to do so, you can always turn this dispatch flag to false from here. Now, with the effects in action, we also studied that NGRX effects is a separate package which needs to be installed from NGRX/effects. Now, in order to make this effects work, you need to go to your app.module where you make store modules.for root, and you help you to register your reducer, as well as you help to register your effects with this effects module for root. Now, once all of those settings are done into your application, it's time for you to navigate to your app.component file. And before you navigate, you always try to create some selectors so that you have your app state, you convert that auth state to your app state, and then you extract out just the auth store. And then using the create selectors, you provide the store and just extract out the required property from that. And this required property can then further be exported out of this component, out of this sorry file. Now, once all of these setups are done, that means action, effects, reducers, and selectors, all of these are on their place. You can go to your component and then to your constructor, you should always use this private store and should tell what is this type of the store. In my case, app store, app state. Now, once this is done, whatever states you rely on can be commented out, can be deleted from your file, and can take place with this distro store.select, like this, where I have an observable of type boolean for the is success and observable of type boolean for is error. Now, wherever you want to dispatch that action, dispatch helps you to forward that action with your payloads, and then the real NGRX cycle takes place into your software development lifecycle hook. Now here, as you can see, I have dispatch on login action. I have forwarded my username and password from here as an input because we know that on login action accepts some inputs which we have provided over here. Now, when you want to listen to those flags, you always can do that with the async pipe, which comes from our handy common module, which we imported from our common module from our dash at the Angular common. So this was the entire life cycle of NGRX. I hope you liked this video and the approach of teaching so far. Thanks for watching and I will now see you in the next one.